Alright, we're ready to start activity 4.1c. Hopefully at this point you have weighed all of your parts to your puzzle piece, to your puzzle cube, and we're ready to put that in Excel and make a scatter plot. So let's open Excel and open a new blank workbook. And again, in the first cell, let's put that this is 4.1c. And put your name. Okay, the first thing you want to do is to create a chart of your weights. And I'm also going to add a title to my chart. So I'm putting puzzle pieces mass data. And our x-axis is going to be the number of cubes, and our y-axis is going to be the mass in grams. Now I'm going to use the information that I had, but you use your numbers. Now this chart title right here, I really want it to be in both of these cells, so the way that you can do that is highlight both cells, and then there's a button that's called Merge and Center. It's right here. If you click that, it'll make that all one cell. So my first piece had 4 cubes, my second piece had 5, and then I had 3 that had 6 cubes. Yours are going to be different than mine. My piece that had 4 cubes weighed 39 grams, 5 weighed 47, and then 57, 58, and 57. Those were my numbers. Now yours may be totally different than mine, but you use whatever numbers you had. Okay, so that's part A of this activity. In fact, if you want to label that part A, you can. Part B of the activity is to make the scatter plot. So the way we're going to make the scatter plot is we're going to highlight our data here, including the titles. Then you go to Insert, and then we're inserting a chart, so we're in this panel, but we want to insert a scatter plot, which is this one, and then choose the first one. Okay, so there is our scatter plot, and this is part B, so if you wanted to label that part B. Now in part B it tells us to make sure that we have titles both on the axis and on the chart. So the next thing we need to do is to change our titles. Now this title's not right, it just needs to say puzzle pieces mass data, so I'm going to take off the mass in grams there, okay, and then hit escape to get out of that title. Now I need to add axis titles here, so I'm going to come up here and click, by the way, I'm in my design tab. You have to click on the chart, be in the design tab, and then add chart element, and I want to add a horizontal title. The x-axis is the number of cubes, so I'm going to type in number of cubes here. Escape out of that. Then I'm going to add a vertical title, so axis titles and then vertical, and the y-axis is this one, so that's the mass in grams. Okay, so there's part B told me to do that. The other thing it told me to do is add a trend line. So again, I want to click on my chart, click the design tab, add a chart element, and then trend line, and click linear. That's the trend line that we want to add. It also tells me to add an equation to that trend line, so I want to double click my trend line, and there's an option down here to hit display equation on the chart. Now my intercept is where if I have 0 cubes, how much would it weigh? Well, it wouldn't weigh 1.3 grams, so I need my intercept to be 0, so I can click this box that says to set my intercept to be 0. The other thing I want to do is make my trend line longer. I would like that to start at 0 instead of 4, so I can go backward 4 places. And I also would like that to end, maybe at 10. So I want to go forward 4 places, since right now it's ending at 6. So that would be my trend line. So I can close that now, and that made my trend line longer. So that's all we have to do for part B. Now we're ready for part C. I would like you to skip a few lines because we're actually going to put parts E and F up here. So maybe about A15 we can do part C. Part C says to write the equation in function notation. So it's this same equation, but function notation replaces the y with f parentheses x. So f of x is what that's called, and then it's just the same equation, 9.5503x. So we're just replacing the y in this equation with function notation f of x. It also says to define our variables. So in this particular problem, the x-axis represents the number of cubes, and the y-axis, which is f of x in this case, since we're using function notation, represents the mass in grams. Okay, so that's part C. Part D asks what the slope of this line is. Now, we could find slope by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, but the good thing is Excel has already found the slope for me. If you remember y equals mx plus b, the m is the slope, which is the number in front of x. So 9.5503 is the slope. Now, it's grams per cube. They do say to put your units on it, and how I know it's grams per cube is because rise over run. So it's grams over cubes, grams per cube. Now, part E says to find out what the mass would be if there were 8 cubes using the function that we have, using the function equation that we have. So what they're wanting to know is if I have 8 cubes here, what would this mass be? Well, I know that I should put 8 in place of x in this equation. So I can find the mass by doing equals 9.5503 times the 8. And that will tell me my mass. So 76.4 grams. So that's part E. Part F says, how many cubes would 95 grams be? So this time the 95 is going in place of y. So the equation that I have, and you don't have to type this, is 95 equals 9.5503x. So to solve that equation, I would need to do 95 divided by 9.5503. So that's what I'm going to do over here. I'm going to do equals 95 divided by 9.5503. And that will tell me how many cubes. So it's 9.9 cubes. Now we can't have 9.9 cubes, so I'm actually going to round this down till I have a whole number. So it's 10 cubes is how much it would be for 95 grams. So that's all you need to do for 4.1c. Now you can save that, and I would suggest uploading it to your Google Drive also, and then submitting that on mypltw.org.